So, but anyway, all right, yeah, still showing that there. So I'm gonna hit go live here and see if that changes stuff. I don't know. Yeah, see now they're saying TikTok, Teresa's harassing us. So yeah, so I think we do have to hit that second one. But I don't know.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, I don't know if it just delays the whole thing. Again, we're still trying this out, so I'm gonna figure this out, and then after we do the show, I'll be able to go back and check. Sorry guys to be showing you the kind of behind the scenes, but I kind of think that probably you guys are okay with that. So
yeah, new streaming software. In case you missed our show on Sunday, YouTube has eliminated the original software that had been we'd gotten very used to, and they just
Google
kind of
Hangouts.
Google Hangouts, and they completely eliminated it. So Sunday was the first time Katie had been using this new software, and now
I'm just getting the hang of like, because I say go live in the software, and then I was seeing like, do I have to also do that on the YouTube thing? I'm not entirely sure, because when I started the show, like when I went back and looked at the Sunday show, it's like you could see me at the beginning be like, okay, I think I have to go live over here. So anyway, Theresa says we're waiting for the Faces of Katie show. I don't know. Let's be honest, guys. I may have my silly faces, but then you have the reaction faces, and I think that Victoria has quite a few of them herself.
How about we not encourage people to freeze frame photos of my reaction faces and create a montage?
But see, okay, so this is the problem that Vicky has. She shows her hand too many times. So she has now admitted to all of you that she does not want to see any freeze frames of her reactions. So please, guys, do not, whatever you do not freeze frame any reactions of Vicky's face and post them anywhere in social media, because that would just be horrible. Otherwise known as, please, freeze frame as many ridiculous faces of Vicky as possible, and make sure you share them with hashtags Faces of Vicky. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
She's such a jerk. Such a jerk. See what you started, Theresa? It's your fault. Hashtag Theresa ruins everything.
Whatever. Whatever. Anyway, I see Thrifting Nomads in the chat.
Yes, exactly. Which Katie are you today? Circle the photo.
All right. So for anybody, we might have some newer people joining us today. We'll talk a little bit later in just a minute here about some of the influx of people we've gotten in the boss group, as well as on the channel. So I'm Katie. This is Vicky. This is the Katie and Vicky YouTube channel. And it's Wednesday, so this is Boss Up and List Day. Which what the heck is Boss Up and List?
Sorry, I had to laugh at the Susie Biatch, the eye roll montage of many faces of Vicky. Anyway, Wednesday is our Boss Up and List Day, which is our all-day virtual listing party that we hold in the Boss Facebook group.
Yeah.
If you are not in the Boss Facebook group, you should be, because it's where all the cool kids are.
Yeah.
The link is below. We have a really great group that has been growing pretty significantly in the past week or so due to Miss T Money, and we'll touch on that later. Crazy. We've have this group for quite a while. Theresa started this group as a way for everyone to get together and talk about a lot of the real business aspects of the online reselling world, including tax questions. We actually answer those. We're not afraid of those. I may be, but not everyone is. And Wednesday, we actually is our day that we have a thread that we post in the group every morning on Wednesday, and it's kind of our check in with your coworkers thread. We talk about our goals for the day, maybe our goals for the week, and we kind of try to hold each other accountable. And we take a break at 11 o'clock Pacific time to bring this show to you, where this is sort of our most businessy show of the week that we do. We talk about business questions, eBay changes, and things like that. And we answer questions from our live guests that are watching live.
So Downtown Julie Brown's in the chat. She has hijacked Chris Brown's YouTube profile and is commenting saying that she wishes she was in the live studio audience again. She was pretty funny. But yeah, so it's funny because our boss group is relatively small, and I think that has a lot to do with kind of the tone that we have set for the group and that we continue forward with. If you've ever been like in a lot of big Facebook groups, depending on kind of what's, I guess, allowed or what the tone is set or the size of the group, it can devolve pretty quickly into people being snarky and jerks and stuff like that.
And kind of just a bitch fest.
Or negative. And so we very much talk about like keeping things positive. It's all about supporting each other. We can be silly. We can be fun. We have a good time in there, but we're all about like supporting each other and not being jerks to each other. But like last week, like all of a sudden we randomly, like maybe, we usually gain like, I don't know, 50 to 70 people a week. Like, that's probably like the average of how many people we add to the
Just
group.
a natural growth that happens through, suggested groups and people finding us organically on Facebook, which because we're the title of the group is Boss, it's the business for online selling success. It is not something that is necessarily found by thrifters or resellers, necessarily naturally, because it's just not one of those super huge groups, and there are plenty of them. But we also talk about it a lot in our show, and as our audience grows, that happens to bring some followers here and there as well. But yeah, a little over a week ago,
it was like going crazy. It was like we were going, what is happening? Because all of a sudden we were getting like requests left and right, and it was like we had like 100
within an hour. Yeah,
and it was so crazy, and we were like trying to figure out like, okay, somebody must have mentioned us somewhere, because that just doesn't happen. Like it's like it had to have been like some other show. So I like reached out to Casey. I'm like, did you like say something about our group? Or like all of a sudden we're getting like all these requests to join, and we're not really sure where they're coming from. And then we realized that what happened, I think you posted like a welcome thread, and we were like, where'd everybody come from? And they're like, we just saw Raiken Profit's video. And so it turns out that Raiken Profit, Steve Raiken, his channel, he's got like 130,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. He had just posted like a few hours earlier his interview with Theresa Cox, T-Money, the bossiest of all the bosses, as I like to say. She is the one who started the Boss Facebook group, and she's our head admin. And
we call her Team Money, and because Susie Beach, who was in the chat,
we lovingly call her Susie Beach,
coined her Team Money. But Theresa is all about numbers. Her hashtag on Instagram is Numbers Geek, and she's formerly worked in accounting for a very long time, and she's all about the numbers and the data and the software and the things that make your business work behind the scenes.
Exactly.
And we're not so much that. We're more big picture, and let's find some fun stuff to sell, and let's make good money at it. But she's really about the analytics and the data behind that. So which is in the business aspect, which is why she created this Facebook group to allow people to talk about that aspect, which is somewhat overlooked in the reselling world. And in doing that, she brought Katie on, and then allowed me to be an admin as well. And it's kind of grown organically from there. And we have a lot of fun posts, like a lot of other reseller groups too. And we are a teaching group. We love new sellers. We love to teach new sellers, and Theresa has always been someone that does that. So,
well, and what I think is awesome is like, you're saying Steve has like 130,000 subscribers. He's like, I think he has like the face or the YouTube channel that has the most subscribers for kind of our genre,
for reselling in general.
I mean, there's a few other big hitters, obviously Casey Paris, Rockstar Flipper. He's got like, I think he's approaching 100,000. You've got like Side Hustle Network. Those guys I think they're over 100,000 now. I think they're like 120,000. Rally Roots is almost at 100,000.
No, they hit 100.
Yeah, it's crazy. So they're like huge. And then you go to like the groups or the channels that have like over 50,000 subscribers, and there's like tons of those too. And it just kind of shows what influence they have. But what's really crazy is that if you look at Steve's videos, and you look at like how many views they get and which ones stand out. Theresa's video, 20,000 views already, and like
in like a little over a week.
No, 6 days. Oh, 6 days. Because the thing is, T-Money. I mean, she's got her little her little Facebook group that we have with her boss group, but she doesn't really have a channel. And yet when she talks,
she should.
When she talks, people listen. She has more influence than I think you would think, based on like the numbers that you can quantify behind her. But people really respect what she has to say, and she's wicked smart.
And she's an old school eBayer. She's been on the platform even longer than I have, and she's been there almost since the beginning. And she's just she's pretty darn fantastic, and she's a good person and a great friend.
Oh, she's awesome. So anyway, guys, listen. If you're not in the Boss Facebook group, we're right down below. I've got the link to it right down below. And if you're new to the channel, new to the group, and you're looking for a way to kind of have more accountability in your business, but also have lots of support, that's what the Boss Facebook group's for. That's what this channel's for. We are all about supporting each other. I see Jessica in the chat says, I love how supportive everyone is and isn't trying to take down their competition. It's so amazing to have the support of these people being a newbie. Honestly, we're coworkers. We're not competition. And so the better you do, the better we do. And so it's in all of our best interests that we are all the best sellers that we can possibly be, because how I treat a buyer is going to affect whether or not they come back to buy from you.
Exactly.
And it elevates the platform altogether. So it's just better for all of us. But yeah, and I also put a link to the Raiken Profit video that Theresa is in if you want to go check it out. It's super awesome. She's great. It's always fun to see what she has to say and get to see her in a video. But before we get into today's topic, and we're talking. The other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to give Barbara a shout out, which I think she's in the chat right now. Barbara is one of our admins in the boss group, and I gotta say, she probably does the majority of the actual admin work in our group.
I want to say
by far.
Barbara carries all of us in that group. I have to be fair. You know, between the shows that Katie and I do, and obviously running our own businesses, and T Money and her couple of businesses that she runs, and her meetup group and all that kind of stuff, we are in the group. Thankfully, the group is relatively small, and we don't really have a lot of jerks. There's not a whole lot of adminning that has to happen there. You know, it's
pretty self-regulating.
We really do try to keep it clean and keep it nice for everyone. But honestly, I think we've only ever had to boot 5 people in almost like a year and a half.
It's pretty good.
Even fewer than that.
But Barbara recently came up with an amazing idea that we love that adds a lot of, I think, value to the boss group. She started doing this daily thread. She just started this last week, and she calls it M&M, or Money and Motivation. And so it's like a daily thread that she puts up in the morning, nice and early, since she's, I think she's a few hours ahead of us.
She's
Dallas.
2 hours ahead.
2 hours ahead of us. So she's been doing this every morning, and it kind of came out of, you know, her wanting to come up with ways to like raise money for herself to be able to go to eBay Open next year. And she thought other people within the group would want to have that as well. And so she started to do this like daily money and motivation group, and money and motivation post every morning in the boss Facebook group. And it's kind of like to help people kind of set some goals around raising money. It's not just for something like Open, but if there's something else, maybe you need to redo your shipping station. Maybe you need to, I don't know, purchase something to help your business. Whatever it is, it's just kind of like a motivating post every morning. It's about moving your business forward in a positive way. And especially from the money side of things, which is super, super important.
And a lot of people that have small businesses, a lot of people in general, let's face it, have difficulty saving money, and they're operating, you know, on a paycheck to paycheck business. That's the reality of America as it stands, regardless of your age bracket. This is not our parents' generation necessarily. So a lot of people are struggling, and it's not like, oh, hey, I can just plop down $5,000 to go and do this or go and do that. And that's not everybody's reality.
Right.
And there's no judgment there. But what Barbara is doing is she's giving money making or money saving tips and money making tips that are easy for anybody to follow, regardless of what your financial situation may be, or what your selling level may be.
Well, and also what she's doing is she's opening it up as a conversation, because, you know, there are a lot of different people in the group, and different people have different ideas about how to move forward with that. And it's kind of like we're crowdsourcing tips and ideas and motivation and ways to help each other. Because somebody might do it one way that works really well for them, and, you know, different things work for different people. Some people, it works to have like a giant jar that you put your change in. For other people, it's just having a regular traditional savings account.
And some people use IRAs and things like that. And some people invest in the stock market. And it just depends on what your level is at. But these little tips coming from all these different backgrounds and different people can be really helpful. And so anyway, we just wanted to say, Barbara, we really do appreciate you, and thank you for making the boss group better and helping us elevate the group.
Yeah, absolutely. It brings a lot of value. So again, if you're not in the boss group, you should be, because it really is a good way to get motivation, to get support from each other, to be inspired by other people. And you know, also,
and we do have another one of our admins in there, Laura Frenzika, as well. And she's fantastic. Miss Laura, thank you for being in here. She doesn't get into the chat very often. I will say Laura lives in the beautiful Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and she takes a lot of time off in the summer. God love her, because she likes to go away and enjoy the outdoors with her husband and her dog in the summer. So she's not quite in the group as much in the summer, because she's not actually doing stuff.
Yep, for sure.
But in the winter, she's doing great. She's there a lot in the winter.
Well, all I know is here we are. It's August. It's the beginning of August. I don't know what happened. I don't know how this happened.
I don't know.
Suddenly we're in August. And before you know it, we're going to be hitting the fourth quarter. And typically, you know, we like to say fourth quarter starts October 1st. Like, that's technically when it starts. So it's October, November, and December. And fourth quarter for a lot of us, that's where, I mean, you were just saying the other day that like probably 40% of your business for the whole year happens during fourth quarter.
Yes.
And for you guys, you know, that have been around for a while, obviously, you know about fourth quarter. For you guys that are newbies, as I know some of you are in the chat, this really is the busiest time of year. Now, it depends on what you sell, like how busy you'll be. It depends on how much stuff you have in your inventory. Yes, there are a lot of people who are buying gifts. So it's like, if you only sell toys, are you probably going to have like a big bump in fourth quarter? Probably. But to be honest, I sell used clothes, guys. I sell used clothes and I see a huge bump in fourth quarter. So it's not just about new stuff.
Absolutely not. 99.9% of what I sell is used or vintage, pre-owned in some way, whether it's household goods or clothing or shoes or collectibles or what have you. And I will say that my sales rise by at least 30 to 40% in the fourth quarter, especially November and December. By the end of October, November and December, my sales are crazy. Yeah. So a lot of people think, fourth quarter doesn't affect me. I sell used. That's not true.
No, it doesn't matter. Because the reality is, when you think about it, you know, summer is generally overall for most sellers, summer is the slowdown period. And that's because people are doing things during the summer. You know, they're out enjoying the weather, they're doing their vacations, stuff like that, especially people have kids. So there's a lot going on during the summertime. And then when you get to fourth quarter, you're getting into the holidays and the weather changes. And in most of the US, people are hunkering down. And because it's the holidays, they're buying gifts for people, it kind of puts them in the spending mood anyway. And so people just tend to buy lots of stuff, not just for gifts, but for themselves, because they're like,
they're in the spending mood. Anyone that has ever worked in the nonprofit sector or in a fundraising sector can attest to the fact that fourth quarter is when you want to have your fundraisers in general. You want to do your big push during fourth quarter because people are in a generous spending mood to begin with. So, you know, that's a part of my background. It's a part of Katie's background as well. And that's a good time of the year to do fundraising because people already have their wallets open.
Yep. So Thrifting Nomads, Will and Jenny, I don't know which one's actually typing right now. So this is going to be their second fourth quarter. So looking forward to comparing. And they say that we're motivating them to keep hitting it hard. Yeah, and the thing is, you know, so you've got 2 months ahead of you, and you're probably thinking like, well, that's kind of a ways away. But you don't realize like how quickly it's coming.
Prepare for it.
Yes. So there's a couple of things you need to do to be preparing. Now we didn't. Speaking of preparing,
we do the show. We did the show last year. And we did like a list of things to do.
Yeah, but
I don't even remember what they were.
But to be honest, like this show, we keep it pretty casual. We don't do a whole lot of prep work because it is really just a conversation. And we encourage you guys to give us, if you have any specific tips or things that you do to get ready, definitely tell us.
Or comment in the chat if you're watching later. Comment if you're watching later. Pop in the Boss Facebook group.
Yeah. So what about supplies? How do you get ready for supply? Like the supplies you need for fourth quarter?
So do not wait until the last minute to make sure that you have specifically your shipping supplies really stocked up. If you think you have enough, order more. You're always going to need more than you think you do. I've learned that the hard way many times. If you use a lot of priority flat rate padded mailers, order a couple of extra cases and put them away, the ones that come in a 100-pack, because we ran out last year twice, I believe. And this time of the year or toward fourth quarter, they're much slower in shipping them out because I think stock becomes limited in general. And USPS times get longer as far as shipping and delivery. So order now in advance so you don't have to get stuck and have to go and try to scrounge for them at your local post office where you may or not find them.
You don't want to be panicked about it.
You have to try and find another local seller that can hook you up. That stuff's important. Sometimes some people do make their packages a little cuter around the holidays, and some people will ask you to gift wrap. If someone asks me to gift wrap, I really only have it happen maybe once or twice in a fourth quarter. I will gladly do that for them because it's an extra thing that you can offer to your customers. You don't have to do that. I don't put it anywhere that I offer it, but I've had people ask me to do that, and I've done it. So you may want to get some extra tissue paper if you don't use tissue paper, that type of thing. Maybe a roll of holiday paper. Most of us have at least one roll sitting around your house. I probably have 30 half rolls from various years. Make sure you have all the different variety of boxes that you need, plenty of tape, packing peanuts, bubble wrap, all the type of things that you need.
Labels,
if you use labels.
Extra ink.
Everything, if you use ink.
Yep, use ink, extra ink.
Everything that you think that you're going to need, you're going to need more of. So even if that means setting aside a corner of your office or what have you to stack your extras, You will go through them. Make sure you're taking advantage of your eBay shipping supply quarterly coupon if you have a store. A lot of people forget to use that, or they're like, I don't really
Yeah.
necessarily need it. You may not need it right now. I'm telling you, order it. Make sure you have your poly mailers, everything that you need to run your business effectively, because the last thing you want to do is have to pay more money because you don't have the right size box, or spend an hour running, to Staples or something to pick up a supply that you don't have on hand. You are going to be busier than you think. And just make sure that you have the items that you need to run your business effectively.
Yeah. So Connecticut Girl is talking about making sure your inventory is accurate. Nothing worse than selling something you can't find. Now we get that it's very likely that you don't have time to do a full like inventory check on all your stuff. But one thing you can do is make sure that you're a little more organized. If you have piles of stuff that you've been meaning to put away and you haven't yet, or there's anything that you can do to get your inventory a little bit better organized so that you can more quickly find items, definitely try and get that done sooner than later, because you're going to want to cut your time down as much as possible in all those areas.
Right. If you don't have an organized inventory system, now is the time to implement one. The smaller your inventory is, the easier it is to implement a system from the beginning now. I will tell you myself, having 2,500 listings, I've never had an inventory system. I still don't. I'm the first person to admit it. I know where everything is. I really do. But I do not have an organized inventory system. It's organized in my head. If someone else has to ship or someone else has to step in for me, it might be a big problem.
Yep. And Victoria Smith brought up a really good point. The post office is going to be extra swamped this year during fourth quarter because of changes to how I guess they're going to be delivering Amazon stuff that's going to be delivered to them by UPS. So it's going to be adding a lot of work onto their plate. So yeah, you're just going to want to.
And last year, shipping times were horrific for the post office. Much longer lag time on shipping and delivery than I've ever experienced in a fourth quarter, where you'd send something first class and it was taking 7 or 8 business days to get somewhere. So that's not the norm. First class would generally take the same amount of time as priority. Priority last year was taking 4 and 5 business days, not 2 or 3. So make sure that you know that. As soon as the post office puts out the information about what the cutoff times are, we're going to share that with you, of course, but the post office does it every year. They tell you what their cutoff times to make sure something arrives by the holidays.
Yeah.
It's really important to be cognizant of those times and to direct your customers' expectations. eBay was pretty good about it last year. They did extend all of the expected delivery dates. When you buy an item and it's going to ship priority, it'll tell you its expected delivery date between X and X. They were pretty good about extending that a few days as needed, but you definitely want to keep an eye on that and manage your buyer's expectations. Don't have a buyer say, hey, if I buy this today and pay for it today, can I get it tomorrow? Chances are no.
Yeah. So Thrifty Nomads, they also make sure they stock up on just the regular priority mailing boxes, because if you're doing bigger stuff, you might end up having to do some frankenboxing. So yeah, you just want to make sure you have lots of extra supplies on hand. It's super important. And Laura says that she's never regretted hoarding boxes, oversized and weird shaped, especially. She does a lot of art and a lot of like bigger stuff that I would never want to have to touch. Of course, you stuck me in, but
hey, you know what? You're good if you ever want to ship to hard goods and switch to hard goods. You know how to ship it all now.
So somebody had asked earlier how much time we spend sourcing per week. So I just wanted to address that real quick. I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it. I just saw it pop up.
Enrique asked another question to do with that. So
okay, so I just wanted to say real quick, the way we generally do it, or at least the way I do it, is I go once a week. I go on Thursdays and do kind of an all-day thing. You come with me sometimes.
I go about once or twice a month. I go with her all day Thursday and do the same thing. And then I also will do the occasional Friday of garage sales, for a few hours and or estate sales. For the most part, I will source 1 day a week and she sources 1 day a week.
So let's say anywhere from 8 to 10, maybe 12 hours tops on sourcing each week for me, but
same.
Yeah, so I would say generally.
I generally do not do a garage sale or estate sale all day thing if I go sourcing with her all day, unless I find very little. That's only happened maybe once or twice.
Yeah. So, and then Enrique wanted to know if we find that we source more during fourth quarter compared to normal times. To a degree, because I do think that during the summertime, when things slow down a little bit, I tend to pick up less items. And now that I'm in Vegas, what I've learned over being here for the last year and a half is that in the summer, at least a couple of the Savers stores pretty much completely eliminate their jacket section. And then I love it when it gets into like the fall here and it starts getting a little
another month or so
chillier,
they'll start coming out,
and they'll start bringing that stuff out. Because like for instance at Tropicana, they have a whole back area where they
hoard all their wintry stuff.
Yeah, you'll see pallets and they'll say like men's winter wear or whatever. And so I get really excited. So I do tend to buy probably more stuff during fourth quarter. Plus there's more capital to play with. But anyway, Mike, Charmed LV, is that Mike?
That's Mike.
Is that Mike?
That's our local friend Mike.
He just
came
super
to the
chatted.
live show.
He did.
And was not even at eBay Open, but came to the live show that we did at the Luxor and trekked all the way through, 17 miles to get to that suite. But
so Mike's relatively new seller. He's been doing it since the beginning of this year. So
we met him at a garage sale.
Yeah. And anyway, he just gave us a $14 super chat for Dutch Brothers apparently. So that's more Dutch Brothers for us. Woohoo! We'll give a little super chat. It's super chat day. Yow. Screenshot that, guys. Make sure you share that face.
Cut it out.
But anyway, okay, so we talk about supplies and stuff like that. Let's talk about actual stuff to sell, because the reality is, listen, guys, there's so many different things that go into how to sell more on eBay or any selling platform. But bottom line, let's just say you've bought the things that people want to buy from you. Let's say you've magically figured out what people want to buy and you've got them. And let's just say you've figured out how to create kind of the best listing you can create with the best policies, and you've got that dialed in. You know how to take good pictures. You know how to create a really sharp dialed in listing, and you've got the stuff. You know what to buy in order to sell it. What else is there? It's a numbers game.
Yeah,
it's really a numbers game. Once you figure that out,
once you have the stuff that people want to buy. People talk about, they're depending on what you sell. Let's be real. If you have replenishables, or if you have high demand items, or if you have the type of items that you would sell on Amazon that are new, and you have multiple quantities, and you have something that's very desirable, or you have something that you're selling at well below the average marketplace, your turnover and your sell-through rate may be on the higher side.
Yeah.
But if you're like the majority of the people that watch our show and us, we're selling one-offs.
Yes.
You're a reseller, you're a thrifter, you're selling one-offs. Maybe if you're lucky, you get, a handful of the same item, maybe 5 or something like that. So for that, you're going to have a much lower sell-through rate. So if you take into account that the average sell-through rate for someone that sells used items is somewhere around 10%. Is good. So like 8 to 12% is what I'm finding with across the board. Anytime I interview someone, anytime I look at their sell-through rates through doing stores, my own, Katie's, everybody's that I know, somewhere between 8 and 12%. If you're on the high end of that, great. If you're higher than that, great. You're doing something right. If you're on the lower end of that, then you may need to reevaluate what you're selling. But keep that in mind, as Katie was saying, as it being a numbers game. If you have a 10% sell-through rate, let's just say you have 1,000 items listed per month, you have a 10% sell-through rate, that's 100 items. If your average sale price is $10, you're not selling a lot. So, the important numbers to keep up are your average sale price. So make sure that you're getting good items that give you as much of an ROI as possible. And if you're not getting the average sale price really high, then you need to somehow increase your sell-through rate. And or your numbers sold. So in order to do that, it's all about ratcheting up how many numbers you have available in your store. If you have 1,000 items and you have 100 people that find your items, that's good. You're very rarely going to see people that have 20, 30, 40% sell-through unless they're selling, like I said before, something really desirable, something consumable, something that is, across the board is in high demand.
Well, so I give that disclaimer because when I say it's a numbers game, I don't care if you have 1,000 Beanie Babies listed or 10,000 Beanie Babies listed. You're probably not going to be making much money. So it is important that you're selling things that people want to buy. But once you kind of have that figured out to a certain degree, you need to be building up the size of your inventory when you hit fourth quarter if you want to optimize fourth quarter.
Right.
Particularly if you're doing one-offs like we are. So if you've got death piles, if you've got inventory that's been sitting around forever, if you've got stuff that needs to be listed, you need to be like hammering that down and like making sure that you're getting stuff listed. Start with the stuff that's the highest value first, because if you have so much stuff that you're not going to ever be able to get through it in the next year, focus on the higher dollar, higher value, more desirable items. Get those listed first. set some goals for yourself over the next 2 months of where you want to be by October 1st. And of course, after October 1st, you're going to continue to list things, but you want to start off fourth quarter from the best possible position. And that's going to be having great daily activity if you can. So going and listing a bunch of stuff every couple of weeks isn't going to cut it if you really want
That
to
might give you a
excel.
burst when you do that, but yeah.
But if you can, starting today, list at least a handful of items every single day, and then have like a good 3-4 days a week where you're listing a larger amount of items, and you are doing that every single day, or at least 5 to 6 days a week, all the way up into fourth quarter and beyond, you are going to see a significant increase in your sales.
If you normally are able to list, say 5 items a day, and that's kind of your max. Maybe you're part-time, maybe you only have a few hours to do this, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe you're working full-time and this is your side hustle, what have you. It doesn't mean that you still can't have a great fourth quarter. So if you are normally listing on average 3 to 5, items a day, do 2 extra, do 2 more. Sit down and spend an extra 15 to 20 minutes and get 2 more listed, because every time you're increasing your available listings, you're increasing the amount of available inventory that someone that may find desirable. If you don't have it listed, you can't sell it. If you don't have stuff listed, you can't, nobody's going to find it.
Yeah. So, Enrique wanted to know if we could share the sell-through rate calculation for the newcomers. Basically, it's your average number of items that you sell per month divided by kind of what you generally have in your store overall. So let's say you generally have 1,000 items listed in your store and you generally sell 100 items a month. That's a 10% sell-through rate. You go 100, divide by 1,000, you move your little decimal over a couple of times, and you hit 10%. Now, it really depends on what you sell and what your sales model is, because you might be a super high volume, low margins person, and then maybe your sell-through rate's 50% and it's super high. Or if you're like us and you're low volume but high average sale price, high margins, then 10% is a really good sell-through rate. So that's why I kind of, you want to know where you're at, but you also have to think about what is your model, because what we do, our 10%, which is good for us, might be really terrible for you if you're selling tons of stuff, or if you're selling tons of stuff where you're only making $1 per item. 10% sell-through rate is going to be hard.
Like I sold, for an example, I sold 10,000, I think it was 10,500 items in the month, $10,500 the month of July between eBay and Etsy. So it was like 10.5, which is great. But I only sold 183 items. So, and I have a total of 2,400 listed. So that's it's a high average sale price, low number sell-through, and a fairly low percentage sell-through rate. So, but my profit margin is 65%. So you have to figure out what your model is, and you're only going to learn to do that over having a store or X number of listings done for a specific amount of time. You need to be able to calculate your numbers. If you're in your first year of selling, it's a lot harder to do. And just all I can say is just get as much listed as you can for the fourth quarter. If this is your second full year of selling, you do have data to look back on and figure out what is your average sale price, what is your average amount, and your average profit margin, all that kind of thing. You can work backwards using those numbers to figure out what your goal may be. Maybe last year you sold $30,000 and this year you want to increase that by 20%. That's not a huge jump, but 20% is significant. So it's just not a huge jump in numbers. It's not that difficult to get there.
So Pop Rocket wants to know what's the most you've ever listed in a day. Neither one of us are huge volume listers because, again, we don't sell at high volumes. But I would say the most I've ever done in a day, I was doing t-shirts, and I think I did between 30 and 40, but then I was also cross-posting those to Etsy. But the reality is we don't go crazy like that. And then I see Jen talking about, a handful a day wouldn't even touch the amount of stuff I've hoarded away. I'm doing that though, but I think my piles reproduce while I'm sleeping. And when I say, I know you're being a little bit silly, but also when I say, just a handful a day, or like in the boss group, I do the 2 or 2 posts where it's like do at least 2 listings a day. That is more about here's where you start from. And it's about building those habits. And because the reality is, I think they say a habit really takes like 67 or 60 some days. Like I've heard 20 days, 28
I've seen a
days.
lot of things.
But the reality is if you do something regularly for let's say a 60-day period where it's like every day you're doing this one task, you get to the point where that just becomes second nature. It's like a habit. And if you miss a day, it like bugs you. And
And it
so,
does depend on you creating, you know, good habits, good
mhm,
business habits. This is a very, very easy business to be like, man, I'll do it tomorrow.
yes.
I'll do it later.
So
Oh,
if
I'm gonna
you
go to the
have,
pool.
so if you've set for yourself, I have to, no matter what, I have to do 2 new listings, or I have to at least end a couple listings and do 2 sell similars, or maybe you say I have to do at least 5 listings. And I'm telling you, once you kind of get into the habit of doing it, you can bust those out in like 5-10 minutes, especially
Hmm.
if you're just doing a couple sell similars.
Right.
But if you tell yourself, I have to do this every single day, no matter what, even if the rest of the day I'm going to the beach or doing whatever, it'll get to the point where on your actual work days, you'll do 20, you'll do 25, you'll do 15, and you'll get to where you're growing, and you'll realize, oh, before you know it, you've doubled the size of your store.
When I buckle down and want to sell and want to list, I should say, and turn off all distractions, shut down social media because I'm as bad at that as everybody else. Getting on Facebook, checking Instagram. Oh, I got up to get a glass of water and now I'm gonna like look at Instagram for 40 minutes. I'm as bad at the time suck as anyone else. I'm watching Netflix, so I'm half watching, half listing. You know, when I buckle down and shut everything off, I've done 50 in one day, 50 brand new items, photos already done, 50 listings.
Hmm.
It hasn't been done in a long time. It's been well over a year since I did 50 listings in a day. But when I'm paying attention, I like to do 20 to 25. That's a solid day for me. So heading forward into fourth quarter, my goal is to have at least 3 days a week where I hit 25 new
Hmm.
listings, and then a few other days where maybe it's less than
Yeah.
25. If I can do better than that, great. Sitting at 2,400 listings exactly today. My goal is to get up to 3,000 by you know heading into fourth quarter. Can I do that? I don't know. I've never been able to. Last year I got to about 2,600 and change, and then stuff fourth quarter
Yeah.
hit and it just kept selling and I couldn't keep up. I couldn't list as fast as I was selling, which is not a bad problem to have. But that's my goal. My
Yeah.
goal is to push myself harder. The month of July, we both slacked. We were away for a lot. We had eBay open, we had house guests. We had a lot of other stuff going on, so we weren't working as hard as
Yeah.
we should be and needed to be. So this month is
Yeah.
it's on.
Well, there's different ways that you can tackle these goals. Because first of all, you got to figure out what is your goal. Like for us, for me, it's like, yes, a small amount of growth. Other people, I see, somebody was saying they're trying to go from 2,000 to 4,000 listings,
Yeah,
reselling
that's
projects.
Michelle.
That's a huge jump. So,
I don't know how she's got. That's hard. Good for
doing
you.
doing your daily minimums, but also having something like, one of the things I like to do is be like, I like to at least list more than I'm selling, so I'm consistently growing. So that means if I'm selling an average, let's say you're selling an average of 2 items a day, listing 4 items a day, selling an average of 5, 10 items a day, make sure you're listing 15 items a day. Like that's how you're going to grow, if you're constantly replacing those items that are selling plus adding more on. And then if you're trying to get an extra 2,000 listings, then obviously you're going to have to like crunch those numbers and figure out, okay, how many do I need to be listing today to not only replenish the items that are selling, but also build on that and get higher. So you really have to look at those numbers and figure out like, how do you have to do it to be able to realistically meet those goals by August or by October 1st. It's super important.
There was a quick one. There's two questions in there, but I'm going to answer the easy one first. Is who just said I have 700? Okay, Denise, 750 items in my store and sell 100 items a month. Your sell-through rate is 13%, which is
Hmm.
very good. If you have used items, that's good. You're on the higher end of sell-through rate. So here's another question that I saw, that Lady Luck Junk. I'm leaving for 8-night vacation. Well, that's our friend Danica.
Hmm.
I'm leaving for an 8-night vacation. Can't list on a cruise. Have y'all had good luck scheduling listings? We did that when we were at camp. We scheduled 10 a day,
Yeah.
at least, and or just go on vacation and hit it hard when you're back. So here's the thing. We've both done this both ways. I never ever put my store on vacation. There are people that are going to want your crap whether they have to wait for it or not. That's
Hmm.
how I feel. I want money coming in while I'm gone. So Katie and I have both done this before, where we both put our stores, put our handling time out 10 days. Figure out how many days you need. Change your handling time. If you have a store or if you're using business policies, you can go in and bulk edit and change your handling time and put it out by 8 business days, 10 business days, whatever you need to do. And that way you at least have some income coming in while you're gone. Um, if you choose to put out on vacation, make sure you change your handling time as well. You have to do both.
Hmm.
And the other thing is that the scheduling listings, what we did, or what she and I both did recently, it depends on how much time you have. We just ended, I think I ended 120 listings. I reworked them a little bit and then I paid to schedule so
Yeah.
that 10 went up every day. So there was some activity in my
10
store.
cents a listing.
10 cents a listing. So it cost me $10 for the week. Did it keep my store active and allow sales? Maybe. I don't know, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, if that helped or not, but it didn't hurt.
It definitely is. I mean, it definitely adds activity. So Strawberry Lemonade wanted to know, when we use two screens to cross post, how do you use a second screen, or what do you use it for? So you have two screens, but you don't do it to cross post because you have Dana do your cross
Mm-mm.
posting. So I actually list on eBay and Etsy simultaneously. So obviously anything that's vintage will go on both platforms. And so I have on my left screen, I have my eBay account open, and so I'll do, let's say I'm doing t-shirts, so I'll have like the listing form open and I'm doing a t-shirt. I will have Etsy, their listing thing is open on that side, so I have both of them open at the same time. I create my title in eBay. I copy and paste that title, put it over onto my Etsy one, and it's great because I just go right over this screen. I don't have to switch over tabs or anything like that. I copy and paste it over there. I upload the photos on eBay and upload the photos on Etsy at the same time. And then I just kind of go through and do everything that I need to do on both of them, and I post them at the exact same time. And it just helps so much having those two screens because I don't have to switch back and forth between tabs. I can do it all at the same time.
The other way to cross post, and we're going to have them on our show shortly, is there is a cross posting or cross listing tool called List Perfectly.
Hmm.
They are in our Facebook group. If you go into the Boss Facebook group and search for List Perfectly, there are several posts and threads, and there are some videos that teach you about the program itself. We are going to have the girls that created this program. There's two ladies that live in Arizona. We're going to have them on this program and have them describe and talk about and give a little demonstration about the program itself. I actually wanted to make sure that I use it myself. It's not something Katie will probably use, but I want to use it
Hmm.
myself and understand it before we have them on the show. It's a great way to build your inventory across multi-channels, and it's very affordable if you're in the place where you want to do that. Right now, I pay my assistant to cross post to Etsy for me. I should be doing it the way Katie does it because I'm at that point where all of my stuff is over there that should be. So
Hmm.
I should be doing the dual screen and doing it, but I'm too lazy. So currently, what I pay her to cross post is far more than it will cost me to get
Yeah.
this program, and that will go on multi platforms. So I'll just have more time to pay her to help me with listing.
Hmm.
So that's my goal this quarter, is to get her listing more, get into this List Perfectly program so I can cross post to cross multi channels.
Yep.
I intend to at least add Macari. I'm thinking about Posh possibly just for some items. Um, but I feel like I'm already on Etsy where I need to be. So, it all depends on what you feel like you can
Hmm.
juggle.
So Jessica's saying that she feels super inadequate. She's only got 80 listings so far. Let me tell you, we all started somewhere. And so it's
Mhm.
really about kind of figuring out the goals for yourself. Forget about what everybody else has. Figure out what goals you have for yourself. And then I think Thrifting Nomads has a great tip, break down what you want and go backwards. So figure out like how many listings do you want to add? Or let's say you have 80 listings and you want to get to 300. So you need 220 more listings. You go back and you basically figure out, okay, how many weeks do I have? Divide it by the weeks. And if you want to drill it down to the pure per day, do that. You might want to do it per week and then figure out how you want to divide it up through your week because you're not going to be necessarily doing a full day listing every day. But you also want to, and I see Pop Rockets talk about the same
That's
thing.
exactly right.
Here's how many days, commit to 10 per day. You can
Hmm.
add 540 listings to your stores. Now
And
you
you want to
also want
continue.
to,
You want to continue
mhm,
past October 1st as well.
of
You don't
course.
want to.
And you also want to account for stuff you're going to sell during that time. So if your goal is to just add 540 new listings, then do it that way. If you want to increase your inventory total by 540 listings, then you also have to add on an extra, kind of estimate how many items you might sell up to that time and add those on top. Like let's say you'll sell 100 items during that time. So you actually want to get 640
Exactly.
listings done to increase your store by that
And
much.
Denise's picks is correct. 70 good listings is better than 400 crappy, trashy listings. I
Hmm.
completely agree. So I know a lot of people are talking about how overwhelming it is right now, the amount of inventory they have, and it seems insurmountable to get it listed. I don't want to be cliche, but go back to the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yep.
But that's really what you need to do. And, DJ has a comment in there that says, she bought 7 metal racks on OfferUp, and it's very stressful and energy draining to go in there looking at the stuff all over. That is one of the best pieces of advice to break that down a little further. If you have so much stuff everywhere, here's my suggestion. If you have the ability to get it out of the room that you're working in, do that. Um, Having a clean and clear workspace makes for a clean and clear mind, and you can break it down into little goals. If you have the ability to take your items and hang them up on hanging racks somewhere, it makes it look neater. It's a little bit easier to get to, and it actually gives you more space, because having things in bags or stacked on the floor or stacked on the couch or in in totes actually take up more space and allow fewer items in them than the big hanging racks do. Hanging racks are also movable. So if you're able to get a few hanging racks and hang some clothing up, that makes a huge difference. I did it in my office. We have it with Katie's backup stuff too. Having a hanging rack makes a huge difference for me. I can fit probably 100 pieces of clothing hanging on a very good rack.
Yeah.
The other
or shove everything off to the side or into another room or into another space. You take your hanging rack. Let's say you're doing clothes. You take your hanging rack. You hang up 50 items, and you take that hanging rack and you put that in your workspace. And the other stuff does not exist. The only thing that matters to you is what's on that hanging rack, and that's what you need to accomplish over the next week or whatever it is that you're going to set up for yourself.
Right.
Because you have to, like she said, it's one bite at a time, one day at a time. You can't, if looking at the whole picture is overwhelming, or as Nancy Bargain Goodness says, sometimes it's discouraging to see these other sellers with gigantic stores. It's like, that's because you're trying to wrap your brain over this huge thing.
Nobody got there in 1 minute. Nobody got there in 1 month. When I started selling on eBay, this is my 21st year, but this is like my 12th year full time. I'm in my 12th year full time. Before that, I would have like 200-300 listings as a part-timer, and that was pretty much where it was. I listed once or twice a week, sourced once a week, once every other week. It was a very part-time gig for me, and I was doing $20,000-$30,000 a year, and that was it. 12 years ago, I decided to increase my business, and I was at, I want to say 5 years ago, I was only at around 1,000 listings, and now I'm at 2,400 and go higher, and I've more than tripled my income in the last 5 years. Just by working harder and sourcing better. So it is absolutely possible to do this at part-time and have a great part-time side hustle. It's also possible to do this full-time. You know what your ability for time is in your life. Everybody has different life issues, whether it's your health or you have children or you have a full-time job or you're, caring for elderly parents or whatever you might be doing. What you have and what your limitations are. And as we've mentioned many times before, the reason why people have this type of online business, there are many different reasons around it, but a lot of them are due to time constraints and health issues and the fact that they can't hold a normal 9-to-5 job for whatever reason. But that does not mean that you cannot have a 9-to-5 income or surpass a 9-to-5 income doing this. You just have to, if you want to get the results of this being a job, then you need to work it like a job, and you've got to go back and and figure out how to make that work for you.
So Susie likes to have her elephant with ranch dressing.
And somebody says, Pop Rocket was right, eat the butt first, or the stuff you don't like to list. That's absolutely true. If you have a death pile of stuff, and I actually have one death pile, and my stuff has been sitting out there for almost a year now, and it's my fault. I have a death pile of stuff on the side of my house that is all this marine stuff that is worth money, that has been given to me. I don't even have any money invested in it, that I don't want to go and list because I'm lazy, because it's dirty and I have to clean it and I've got to list it outside and take photos outside. So it's been sitting there for a year, and I list everything else, and then I ignore
Everybody
it.
does it.
Everybody has it.
So Reseller Project makes a really good point. If you have a death pile, always list more daily than you source. That way you can still shop, but still are making progress on your pile. Yeah, people will say, oh, I'm on a buying freeze. And you know what? I get that for a lot of you guys, a lot of sellers, the reason you have death piles is because the sourcing is kind of the best part of what we do. And so I totally understand that. And I actually, if you could do a buying freeze and you can go ahead and list everything, then great. But
I know a lot of people that have done buying freezes.
Yeah, but if not, use sourcing as a reward. So set goals for yourself. Set goals for yourself, and you say, okay, I want to get 50 items listed this week. So make sure you get your items listed. And then when you accomplish that, you're like, okay, now I have permission to go out and source, but maybe give yourself a limit on how many items you can buy. Like, I'm going to go out and source, but I can't buy more than 20 items this week. So you go out, you do your sourcing, you limit yourself, you get your 20 items, and then the next week your goal is you have to list another 50 items. So not only are you listing, and you have to start with those 20 items, start with those ones you just bought, list all 20 of those items plus 30 from your death piles, and then you keep going like that week after week, and you will
take
slowly chip away, but you'll still be getting the newer stuff, because the reality is, as we go on, we like to source.
We learn
new stuff, And you realize, oh, that crap I bought a year ago that's been sitting in this pile, now I look at it and I know more, and I know that's not actually worth anything. So I get it. You want to keep bringing in new inventory, but you have to be listing more than you are buying if you have a backlog of stuff and you want any chance of getting through it. And sometimes, like I see, Jen Lee says that she thinks she easily has at least 15 to 20,000 stuff in her house and kind of wish she could sell it all to somebody for a lump sum. You know, sometimes you're going to get to a point where you have too much, and maybe you need to go back and cull through it and realize, oh, this stuff I bought a year ago isn't really worth, I know now it's not worth what I thought it was. You can go ahead and donate that. Give yourself permission. You can get rid of it, because
get the tax write-off.
If it's keeping you from being able to be successful and to move forward, go ahead, donate it. Go ahead and sell off in bulk locally. Do whatever you have to do. Chip that away. Get rid of some of that stuff. Just because you bought it doesn't mean you were obligated to list it. You
can live with it, right?
You can, take it at a loss. It's okay. Whatever you need to do to move forward and actually be profitable. Mm-hmm. Don't let these obstacles build up.
So Joni has a comment there, and it's a good problem to have. She has death piles because she gets free inventory coming in daily, and it comes in so fast. So here's what I would suggest for someone that has that as an issue, which is, hell, that's a good issue to have. Cherrypick. You go through those piles and you cherry pick those higher dollar value items and you put those aside for yourself. The rest either donate back or create reseller boxes and sell them locally. Put them on your local marketplace sites. Put them on Facebook sites that allow that. Our group does not allow selling, but there are groups that are made specifically for that. Get some money back and throw everything that fits into a large flat rate box out to somebody for $50, and and it might be items that are worth listing for a $5 or $10 profit a piece. But if you have good items, you don't need to be listing mediocre items. And if you're getting them for free, make a little bit of money off of them and let someone else do the work to sell it for a little bit more of a profit. Blow it out at a flea market or a yard sale if you have that ability, like Mo says. There's lots of different ways to cull through an overabundance of inventory. And as you're going through your death piles, as you've learned more every year, like Katie says, and you learn how to pick better and sell better, Michelle says the same thing. When you limit yourself to sourcing, you tend to be a little bit more picky about what you purchase. Mm-hmm. My assistant is one of those, for example. She lives in a very small apartment, and she is very good at sourcing. We have plenty of sourcing here in Vegas. She's also a seller as well, Dana, if some of you know who that is. But she has a very good eye, and has the ability to find really good items just like anyone does, but she's very limited by space. So that way she's very choosy about what she buys. And she allows herself to source 1 or 2 times a week, but she's very choosy. She may only buy 2 things when she goes to a store. I've never had that problem, but it limits her in her space. And that's an important thing too. When you're going through your old stuff, as Katie says, you may learn that, this isn't really worth it. Set aside that crap. Don't just keep putting it aside to list it later. Pull aside the stuff that's worth money. Get that stuff listed first. Give that a priority. But put aside the old stuff that's really not worth it. You have got a bunch of Kmart brand in there, or Walmart brand, or something that's not so exciting and it's mediocre and has a really low sell-through rate, and it's going to sell for $10. You might have gotten it for free. You might have gotten it for 50 cents. But is it worth your time and space and energy keeping it and worrying about it to make a $4 or $5 profit, even if you paid nothing for it? Mm-hmm. You need to value your time as well. And I think too many people don't do that.
Allison, Big Drift Thrift, so she's sending out her first reseller box today. That's very exciting. That's pretty awesome.
Woo!
Hopefully I want to be able to buy one of those and do an unboxing.
I know. Listen.
Yeah,
Linda.
Anyway, so we're gonna wrap this up because I think Dana's gonna be here pretty soon. She's gonna come and be doing some work for you.
Doing some listing today, and the door's gonna open, and the dogs are gonna go bonkers.
But hopefully, this conversation has given you guys some food for thought, some direction of how you might want to set some goals for yourself in getting ready for fourth quarter. We didn't cover everything that you can possibly think of as far as fourth quarter goes, but it really comes down to being prepared as far as supplies go and building up your inventory and getting your activity going, getting your activity up. So that you make sure that all your stuff is showing up and people are seeing it, people are buying it, doing everything you need to do. Get your store dialed in, guys. You want to be prepared for fourth quarter because this really is, for those of you guys just starting out, if you have a decent inventory, this is really going to give you a little boost in income, and it's really going to start your next year off great. it's going to give you that opportunity to be able to really build up your business. Yes.
And I see in the chat there, Joey is new to our chat, Econ 101 podcast. If you haven't followed them on YouTube, or if you like podcasts, they do a YouTube show that is also a podcast. Joey is one half of the duo. The other half is our friend Robin Haas, that you may or may not know as well. They just started it's a baby YouTube channel. And Joey has a background in accounting. He's a CPA, I believe. So they're going to be doing some interesting business stuff over there. But the comment there is accurate. The longer you hold on to items, the more attached you get to them. Attachment bias is an emotional connection. It's harder to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And you need to be able to detach yourself from the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jen, I see what you were saying about, she's saying that she is like an actual hoarder, not the dirty kind, but the kind that she likes to buy stuff. And I get it. Like, it can be really hard, and it probably makes it even harder when you make this your business. When it's your business, because it's like you need to be buying stuff, but you also need to be selling it. So I totally get it. And you've got the whole attachment thing going on. I'd be like, oh, you want to buy my pants? Let me take them off for you right now. You can give me some money.
That's kind of how I feel. I don't hoard or collect very many things. There are a couple of things that I like, but for the most part, I don't have an emotional attachment to things. There are very few things that I have an emotional attachment to. So
Allison says that we're difficult to please.
No, we're not.
She can't measure up. I love the stuff that you
and I believe, I guess Dawn Ortiz is the very first reseller box buyer.
Ooh.
Dawn, I expect to see an unboxing, at least in our little group, so I can see what is in that.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, guys, we really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us today. Like I said, I hope that this has given you some motivation, some direction for getting ready for fourth quarter. Again, I'm going to go back to join the boss group if you're not already in it. If you are on Facebook, you should be, whatever group you need to kind of motivate yourself. But we're a really great group for setting goals and for holding each other accountable and having like that positive support system that everyone needs to have to be able to do really well in this business.
I would like to add that
yes.
if you are in our boss Facebook group, think about finding yourself a reseller buddy. Somebody that might be in your area. It's great to find somebody to go and thrift with or source with and bounce ideas off of. I think everybody needs that. We're fortunate we have each other, but we also have great friends here in town that we can get together with and just do stuff with. We also run a meetup group. So try to find a meetup group in your area. If there is one, they're very much worth the effort to go to one once a month or whenever they're held. But also maybe find yourself an accountability partner. That person does not necessarily have to be in your town or in your state, but maybe it's someone you feel you connect with, or you have similar business models. Maybe you're both stay-at-home moms. Maybe you're both home taking care of elderly parents. Maybe you're both part-time and you can only do this a few hours a week. Find that accountability partner in the same way that maybe you'd find an accountability partner if you've ever tried to join a weight loss group and stuff like that. Me, chubby girl here. It helps you. You help to keep each other accountable. Hey, my challenge is 100 items this week. How'd you do today? How'd you do too? And that way you have, maybe it's a little private accountability and you have that person you can bounce things off of. And when you're frustrated or you feel like you have a bad day, you have somebody you can vent to and with. And maybe that person is not your partner at home, and that's okay too. But maybe it's a partner out there that you don't necessarily know well. Yeah. And, find yourself a new friend because it does help to have somebody to bounce that off of. When I'm having a bad day, I can totally vent to Katie about it. And I know not everybody has that at home. I may not have a partner that supports them or understands how this business works. But you can definitely find that person in our Facebook group. And obviously it's full of other resellers. So.
All right, guys. Again, thank you so much. And we will see you on Sunday for our Sunday live haul. So come join us there. And of course, we'll see you in the Boss Facebook group if you come hang out with us. So, all right. Bye.
Hope you helped. Bye.